And that's what I'm here to help you. That's what I'm offering to help you with.
No, you're not, because you're just talking. Journalists aren't here to help me.
What the fuck else can I do but talk, son? For God's sake, don't be so silly. All I can do is talk to you. If you don't want to listen, then maybe you're walking around with your hands in your ears yourself.
The Tommy Boyd Show.
Well, the one that we liked was, why does everybody press the button on the remote control harder if it's run out of battery?
Yes.
You point it at the television or the receiver, it doesn't click.
No.
So you press it harder, as if that's going to make it work. By the way, you know, there's a good trick. My dad was an electrician, amongst other things. Well, I say that, he got away with it. And if you've got a device and the batteries have gone, you probably know this.
Yes.
If you take the batteries out and warm them in your hand, you knew that?
Yeah, I've been doing that with the...
With what?
No,
no,
not
those
that.
batteries.
No, not that.
No, not that.
No, they need a bit more power.
Yeah,
with the remote control in the bedroom,
Yes.
the television remote control in the bedroom.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for about a year.
Yeah.
It does work.
Yeah. Can you not buy rechargeable vibrators? You'd think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because the batteries do go very quickly.
They do, I'm told. I had a girlfriend long before I was married who, well, not that long actually, and she used to use an electric toothbrush because it was rechargeable, and she said it was much more reliable because of that.
She keep,
I know.
the bristles.
No, she took the brush off. Oh, for God's sake. She took the brush off. Oh, dear. God, you have a mental image of her putting some Colgate on it.
I did.
Well, did you? God. Well, maybe she did. I used to have a beautiful, bright smile myself the morning after. So maybe... No, that's a terrible reference to oral sex.
The Tommy Boyd Show, only on Play 2 UK.
One of the best interviews that's up on our podcast library at Play Radio is when the Sunday Roast team had a young man called... I say young man, there's something youthful and vigorous about his high principles that are called Keith Mann. And Keith joins us on a Monday evening this evening, and I'm pleased to be able to say hello to you, sir. How are you tonight?
Hi, Tommy. I'm good, thanks. The youngie's very good. I'm happy with that.
Well, you know what I mean about there being something youthful about having principles?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Just remind me again and the good listener, well, how many years you spent in prison for what you believe?
I've lost count now, 7.5 approximately.
7.5 years. Which prisons?
Oh, which ones didn't I spend time in? I went right around the system. The system, it works. If you're a little bit annoying or confrontational or you question the system, they tend to move you around a lot, and they put you on what they call a ghost train. They'll come to your cell first thing in the morning, move you without your property, without your mail, without anybody knowing where you've gone, put you in another prison somewhere in another part of the country. And that happened endlessly to me, and it happens to a lot of people in our prison system at the moment.
Well, there's so much to talk about, because we could probably spend the evening talking just about that, but you do have a book out, and I've interviewed people who've had books out, oh God, endlessly, and mostly it's crap. You know, their books are absolute crap, and you're doing it just to fill 20 minutes on some local radio station. But in your case, I genuinely wanted to talk to you about yourself, and about your book, which is quite a bit of bedtime reading, isn't it?
Indeed, yes.
How long is it?
640, 50 odd pages, I think. It took me 15 years in the making.
Yes.
It was an idea for many, many years, and gradually I developed it, and it took all those years to get it to come together.
Right, so you were writing it in prison?
I actually started it in prison. It was the only time I had the time to sit down and focus on something like that. I'd been involved in various campaigns around the country, around the world, animal rights campaigns predominantly, trying to raise the issue, sabotaging fox hunts, breaking into fur farms, filming the environment in laboratories and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people had been in in this kind of environment where we're talking about writing a book. Somebody should write a book, tell a story about what we're going through, and it never happened. I ended up with a 14-year prison sentence, and it kind of gave me the opportunity to put pen to paper.
What were you actually sent to prison for? Because although I'm prepared to say, socially and privately, that you're a man who went to prison for his principles, the law actually sent you to prison for, what were the charges?
There were 5 charges, I think, at the time. Relatively minor charges. They all involved, like, damage to property, which to me is, compared to what's happening in this world, it's nothing, really. And I'm not downplaying it, people break the law and it's wrong, we have rules in society and all the rest of it, but I was driven by what I was seeing happening in these places, these secret laboratories and factory farms and slaughterhouses, and I had to do something about it, so I went out of my way to raise the issue, and I found that doing it legitimately, trying to go on protest marches and writing to my politician, it wasn't getting me anywhere, and I'd seen through history that it wasn't happening, things weren't changing, people weren't listening, so I broke the law. And I've got no shame, no remorse, I've got no regret about that. But it obviously got me a long prison sentence, which, in a way, it kind of reinforced in me that I was doing the right thing. And
Can I ask you that? I have to say that, with what little I know, and having started life as a journalist, you do end up being quite well acquainted with the way the legal system tends to function. I do find a sentence of... What was your sentence?
It was 14 years.
I find that a surprisingly long sentence where, if there was theft involved, well, what were you charged with? You were charged with you were charged with damage, presumably breaking and entering.
Attempted arson was probably the most serious of the charges, and criminal damage, damaged vehicles.
Did you try to set somewhere on fire?
There were vehicles, these vehicles are used to transport animals to...
But you did try and set them on fire, you're open?
Yes.
And you pleaded guilty when you went to court, or did you...
I did, yes.
You didn't try to take the opportunity to carry out your campaigning?
No, they promised us, I think, a 4-month trial. I had 4 months at which I could have made a performance in court, but no, I was pragmatic about my situation. I'd been caught red-handed. I had no 2 ways out, so I pleaded guilty with a view to getting a shorter sentence and to get myself back on the street, as it were, carrying with what I think is important. And the consequence was I was given a 14-year prison sentence, just as much to make an example for other people, to slow down this progression, this natural progression into a higher state of consciousness, which is happening in the world at the moment. And I was part of that, and the people who control what we are, that control our society, don't like that. And this was a message to other people: you don't do what this man is doing, or we'll give you a big prison sentence. And they're doing it. They're doing it to a lot of people at the moment.
You're listening to your podcasting. You probably are podcasting, so this has already happened, this interview. This is Keith Mann we're talking to, a man who has spent 7 or so years in prison, charged with offences that relate to his principled conviction that the way in which we, all of us, either by default or by conscious choice, treat animals. He's particularly concerned, I know, and we'll get onto this, about the way in which they're used in the pharmaceutical industry for what is called research purposes. But I would imagine, Keith, that you are pretty much opposed to everything between chickens and battery farming and what's called factory farming, right the way through to something that I think most people are probably very uncomfortable about. And that is vivisection, pretty much the whole spectrum of the way we treat animals. What about pets, though, can I ask you? Am I in trouble with you? I've got a Labrador.
No, of course not. I mean, it's all part of a big problem. Ignorance is the biggest problem we have on this planet, I think, and it affects us all. Whatever species of animal you are, ignorance is the biggest hindrance we have to evolving to our species to what it needs to be. And the pet industry is a big part of this. People don't know. They're not... and it isn't stupidity. It's not that people are stupid, and this goes right across the board. We're just not educated properly. Kids effectively can walk into a pet shop and take out an animal that isn't effectively a wild animal. It's been captured from the wild, not many generations before, and bred in captivity. That doesn't make them captive animals. They're still wild animals. Hamsters, for example, these things are kept in tiny little cages, and the kids that have got them have got no idea what these animals need. And it's not just hamsters, it's fish. Why are we keeping fish in tanks in our living room? And reptiles. These are wild animals. These are wild creatures. They shouldn't be in cages. They shouldn't be being stared at. It's wrong, and we need to wake up and realise what we're doing.
Yes.
And what we're doing to these animals is affecting ourselves. You know, we are one, and the way we're treating other animals and each other on this planet is having a desperately bad effect on us, on each and every one of us, and we need to wake up to the reality of what we're doing.
Did you personally have a sort of, as they call it, a Damascene experience where you suddenly realised that something was wrong? Maybe you saw an animal being ill-treated, and that kind of suddenly opened up the way we ill-treat, in your view, all animals? Or was it a gradual conversion from whatever you were like before to this, or were you pretty much born as you are?
Well, it was a trickle. I think it was a trickle. I like to think there's one particular moment when, an experience with a slaughterhouse, it's an abattoir, these places where animals are baby animals, predominantly baby animals that we send to these places. They're no more than a year old, these animals, whatever species you want to name, you care to mention, they go to slaughter as a baby. And when I had no idea, all through my school education, that this is what we did, that this is where these animals came from. I saw them in the supermarket on the shelf, or my mum had put them on the plate, and it was hot and steaming, and, you know, I had no connection with the reality of where this animal came from. And when I met a slaughterhouse, I found a slaughterhouse by chance one day when I was younger, 15 or 16, and I had no idea. I was being nosy. I wondered where these vehicles full of lambs were being driven to every day. They used to pass me near where I used to live. And go down this dark lane, and at the bottom of this lane were these buildings, these windowless buildings, and inside one day I had a look, and I was horrified. It broke my heart, that instant. From that moment on, I never ate another animal again, and from there on, the process of learning things that weren't taught to me at school has been really cathartic for me. It's been a real education to teach myself about, not just about what we're doing to animals in farming, and not just the meat industry. The dairy industry is the most appalling industry imaginable. What we're doing to these creatures is something else. You know, they're worked to the limit, and then they're slaughtered as young creatures. And this goes all the way across the board. It's awful industry, and then the meat industry then took me to vivisection and what we do to these animals, to test things on them, to, as we're told, try and find cures for human diseases, and, you know, the fur industry and all this, and the whole thing is. And now, to learn what I've learned more recently about, well, the bigger picture is quite something else. It really is.
We'll come on to that.
Revelation.
Fiona's here. You've spoken to Fiona off air when we set the chat up with you. But there's a question she wanted to ask you about something you just said.
Yeah, it's not so much a question. It was just that I just picked up on what you said about when you were 15, 16, and you were curious as to where the lorry full of lambs were heading to, and so you went to investigate, and that curiosity in itself strikes to me that there was obviously something in you enough that you cared about where they were going, so that there must have already been something inside you driving you to follow that lorry in the first place, because majority of 15, 16-year-olds would just watch the lorry go by and wouldn't think anything of it and get on with their day.
Sure. Well, I think part of it may be, I firmly believe that this is in all people, this is in all human beings. Most kids, you'll find, they adore animals, they love and they cuddle, they get really excited to see a puppy on a lead, or whatever it is, or a cow in a field, and kids love it. You know, this is just the most amazing thing, this wild animal, the love and the vibration they get from this creature, it's a connection, and have all got it. But as we grow up, it's drummed out of us. You know, old MacDonald had a farm, and all the children's nursery rhymes are all about. It's all about indoctrination, about poisoning the mind. And as we grow older, it's more and more acceptable to use animals for our own purposes. And for me, this is what drove me once I discovered the slaughterhouse. Part of that process was learning things before that. I used to see posters on the street where somebody had gone out and he'd fly posted at their own risk and in their own time a picture of an animal in a laboratory with stuff hanging out of its head with electrodes. And all these things, it was a drip feed, I think, for me. And, you know, if there's enough of that, if people see enough of what the reality is, they don't want to be part of it. And I've discovered that through many, many years of protesting and campaigning and trying to educate people. You know, and this is what education, advertising is about, drumming enough of it into people's heads. And they start to believe it, and this is why we're all so confused about what is happening on this world, because we're being fed nonsense, you know, and poisons and all these things that are drumming down our emotions. I got a drip feed of this positivity, if you like. It was very negative images, but it was telling me something that I needed to know. And once the slaughterhouse arrived, that was it for me. That was the, the final word. And I'm meeting people now all over the world, aging people who are 60 and 70, and they've had enough of this now. They're getting this information now from a lot of different sources, from people like myself who are, doing whatever they can to get the information out, and they're changing the way they are because they're being exposed to the reality of the world that we live in. And for me, I do believe it's all there. All kids have got it. We just take it away from them.
I think there's probably a certain amount of us also out there that kind of do have a conscience about it and do know a certain amount, but actually just want to sort of go into denial about it.
Yeah.
And don't just choose not to look at the images, choose, not to believe, what we're told, because it's all too frightening, because this is the way we're kind of, we're kind of sort of made to live our lives. I say made, but, society takes us along in one direction, and actually we kind of it's just easier to go with it than sort of question and make changes in our lives.
Absolutely, but I think things are changing. There's a lot going on in the world, and things are changing. They have to change, otherwise we are doomed as a species. This planet is doomed, if we don't wake up to the reality of what is happening. And it's becoming apparent to a lot of people now that we can't just ignore it. It's not that we can hide away from the fact that these things are happening anymore, because it is affecting us. What we're doing to animals in farming, the environmental damage, the environmental impact of animal farming is huge. It's having a big impact on on all our lives.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, for example, to generate meat from an animal, you have to feed it a massive amount of vegetable protein that will keep human beings alive for a lot longer than meat protein will, for example. So if you want to live longer and healthier, don't eat meat to start with. But what we're doing, we're growing these crops on land that we need. Already half the world's population is undernourished, and the statistics are outrageous. But what we're doing, we're growing crops, very good quality vegetable protein to feed to farm animals, because it's a viable product that's good for the economy. It makes money for people, and because we've always done it. So we waste a massive amount of this protein by feeding it to animals, which gives us a very small return in meat protein. So already we're wasting land and we're wasting food. Now farm animals, cattle, the people that are hamburgers, beef burgers, whatever you want to call it, all these products that have been turned into something that aren't animals anymore, these animals take a vast amount of water to grow, massive amount of water they need to consume to live. So there's another problem. Now there's also the argument about global warming. And apart from all that, and there are many other aspects to it, the violence that's involved, if we're going to carry on inflicting this kind of violence on the animal kingdom because we enjoy the product, the results that we get from it, there is no hope for humanity. There really isn't. We've got to change the way we live and the way we behave and our attitude to life on this planet if we're going to evolve.
But right now, we're enjoying the company of Keith Mann, a man who spent 7 years in prison for crimes which are connected to his high principles, which are, or at least used to be, concerned almost entirely with animal welfare. However, Keith's new book, which is called, remind me, Keith?
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Which is 650 pages long, takes your campaigning, takes your flag waving, if you like, into some new territories, doesn't it? I've been reading your press release, and you want people to know about the cover-up of the fact that there's life on Mars and that George Bush is a cousin of the Queen, things like that.
Well, absolutely. It's just an extension of everything I've always been involved in, really. We have some big problems on this planet, and we really need to wake up to the reality of what's going on here. And there's an amazing amount of research out there that none of us have been taught in school or university or college or anywhere like that. But it's going to have the most profound impact on what we are and what happens on this planet. And, you know, I've been labelled as an extremist and a nutter and a lunatic and all these other labels that have been put against me, I've been called over the years, by people often who are involved in this wholesale oppression of all life on this planet. And this stuff, you know, it's often seen as funny. People like David Icke, for example, who's somebody I would implore everybody who's listening to this program to do a little bit of research into, this man is a gem, and he's probably the best hope this planet has. And he's laughed at, he's mocked, because he's got different opinions outside the norm. But what he's done, and a lot of other researchers have done the same, is exposed the reality of life on this planet and who is controlling life on this planet and what their agenda is. And the abuse of animals is only a small part, albeit a huge part of this problem. But there's a lot more going on that we need to know about. And if we don't wake up and realise what's happening here, we're all going to be in big, big trouble. And,
right.
you know...
Now, this is where I think it's going to get particularly interesting, because as far as I and a lot of people listening are concerned, your arguments about animals and the way they're treated, that is one. And well done for winning those arguments in most people's minds. Now we have to get some action about that. But the idea that David Icke has got some valuable things that he can show to be the case to tell us, that's going to take you a lot longer than winning the argument about animal rights, I have to say.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You sound to me like a more of an open-minded journalist than most journalists in this country. Well, in the Western world, but should be ashamed of themselves, because they're not investigating the stories. What they're doing is parroting the information that's peddled by politicians.
Yeah, but that's not part of a conspiracy theory. That's not part of a conspiracy theory. That's a matter of filling news bulletins with stuff that can be verified.
Well, no, this is the problem, see, and also describing anything that the media don't parrot as a theory.
No, it's not parroting.
But it is. If you let me explain.
No, well, I don't. Okay, well, hang on a second. What journalistic background have you got?
Absolutely none.
Well, as a journalist...
what I do is I read what journalists report.
Maybe you do, but until you've done the job, you wouldn't know how it's done and why it's done the way that you're decrying. They're not parroting any government line. When you broadcast news, there's a requirement on you, and it's right that this is the case, that the things that you are alleging are verifiable.
Well, most people...
And the stuff that David Icke's going on about is not verifiable.
Well, no, absolutely it is. And if you look at...
No, absolutely it isn't.
Okay, well, I don't know how much of David Icke's research that you've researched, but...
enough to be absolutely clear that the man is not good at facts.
Well, okay. Do you know anything about Codex Alimentarius?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, how much of the media...
Well, you tell us what you think Codex Alimentarius is all about.
Well, for example, Codex Alimentarius, which comes into power, and I implore people to research this...
Just tell us what it's about.
It becomes law in December next year. It basically, what they call it harmonising.
Who's they?
Well, the people who are in control.
Who are they?
They are people. They may be the shadow government. You can call them whoever you want.
Now, who's written this codex? Who's created this codex?
Well, this is created by people who control politicians.
Who?
The names I don't have.
The organisations, do you have?
Well, let me tell you. You asked me to explain. Codex basically puts healing...
But no, I have to stop you there for a second.
For example,
hang on. Whoa, Keith. Let me just tell you about how you disseminate information in a way which is persuasive and acceptable, and in a way which will alert journalists to what you want them to pass on. Okay? When you say they, you have to know who you're talking about. You can't just say the big they.
Well, no, listen, if I was to say there's a new law coming in next year, the new Terrorism Act, and you said to me, who are the people that have written this act? I don't know the names of the people who wrote the act into power.
It's easy to find out who it is who is responsible for the things that you are concerned about.
Well, this is the problem. I'm not a journalist.
But if you're going... No, but you have to still function like one in terms of acquiring information which is verifiable, which therefore constitutes what journalists quite rightly carefully regard as evidence or hot air. Codex Alimentarius has been devised by the World Health Organization.
Yeah, which is controlled by the same forces who, for example, control the media, who aren't telling us the true story about what happened on 9/11. Codex. There's been no reporting in any media about Codex. You tell me where it's reported in the national media.
Well, I know about it. So it must have been.
But where have you reported it? When has it been reported anywhere in any of your media shows?
Right, well, wait, just there. You see, if you want to give a story to journalists, whether it's Panorama or Independent Radio News or an organisation like ours, okay, you have to come with some meat on the bone.
Well, I can tell you what it says. It doesn't matter who wrote it, but I can tell you what it's going to do and the impact it's going to have.
Now, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there, and let me just cultivate what you're saying for you. Okay? You're not going to tell us what it really is going to do. You're going to tell us what you're concerned it
No, I'll
might
tell you what
do.
my research shows me that it will do, what it tells me that it will do. I don't know. Well, I know what my concerns are, and they're the same as the reality of what it says it's going to do. What I don't know, I can't. You're right. You can't pin me down on telling you exactly who penned this document.
But you wanted to introduce this. You decided to bring this as evidence of there being some kind.
Research it for themselves. This is what I'm saying. I don't want.
Well, I have researched it for myself, and I'm very comfortable with the Codex.
Okay, that's cool, but I would like people. This is what I'm saying. I'm not asking you to believe or anybody to believe anything of what I'm saying. They should research it. I also think it would be important if people researched 9/11 and the New World Order, which again, none of the national media, none of the media at all.
Well, let me stop you there. Okay, all right. Look, we've got time. Let's do this at the right pace. You mentioned 9/11.
Yes.
I would imagine, sadly, nobody has spent more time sifting through the various theories relating to 9/11 than myself, for professional reasons, but also because I personally find myself drawn to these various theories that concern 9/11. And whilst I find many of them brilliantly portrayed on the internet, which is probably where you do the bulk of your research, okay?
No.
I would suggest it is, but anyway, I still am unable to believe that Bush, the Pentagon, some unseen bankers, the Rothschilds, Martians, whatever you want to say, managed to do what was done on 9/11.
Okay, that's fine. You're happy to believe that Bin Laden did it with 19 Arab terrorists, half of who are still alive. That's fine. But what is important is that people do research this, because we're not being told the full story. For example, you've researched it. Presumably you can see a jumbo jet at the Pentagon, at the site of the Pentagon crash.
Well,
I presume,
Keith,
because I can't.
Again, this is where you got a problem. It wasn't supposed to be a jumbo jet. Nobody said it was a jumbo jet.
Yes, they did.
It's not a jumbo jet, mate. It's a 737.
Okay. You know, you've got me right there. You've got me wrong there.
And I have got
you're
you
right. It was a 730. It's supposed to be a 737.
Yeah. And this is your problem. Look, this is your problem. You've got to get your facts right. Otherwise, journalists are going to put the phone down on you. Take on your press release. Who is Michael Elner, who you quote at the top of your press release? Well, I don't have your press release in front of me, but I've read it.
It's not actually a press release. This is the problem, see. It's not a press release. It's a blog.
All right, well, a blog then.
Press release.
All right, I'll find a blog, but if you're going to attach a quotation at the beginning of your blog, do you remember what the quotation says?
I do.
And I'm on your side here.
I'll tell you exactly what it says. Just look at us. Everything is backwards.
Yes.
Everything is upside down.
Right.
Doctors destroy health. Lawyers destroy justice. Universities destroy knowledge. Governments destroy freedom. The major media destroy information. Religions destroy spirituality.
Okay.
Now, you can make me wrong, but I can verify all of those points.
Maybe you can, but who's come up with the quotation?
A guy called Michael Elner.
And what are his credentials for this kind of pontification?
Well, he can make a comment, and it can be
But
right
who
or wrong.
is
You
he?
don't have to believe
Who
it.
is he, Keith?
What do you mean, who is he?
Who is he?
Can we talk about things that are really relevant? It doesn't matter who Michael Elner is.
You're damning journalism. And I'm giving you a quiet lesson in how you need to operate if you're going to impress journalists. You don't know who Michael Elner is, and yet you quote him at the beginning of what you have to say. You know, he might, for all you know, he might be a dumb, travelling...
Do you want to hear me speak, or do you just want to talk? I'm not here to impress journalists. I want people to do some research for themselves to try and figure out the truth.
And we'll take you more seriously when you represent yourself for better.
It wasn't carried out by a guy in a cave.
No, Keith, I don't want an argument with you. I want to help you. And I would have thought that's perfectly clear. But part of the problem, part of the reason that you say that journalists, all they do is repeat parrot fashion what the government feeds them.
Well, that's quite clear to most people,
Possibly.
I think.
But if you presented your information in a way that they found more accessible and useful, then you would get a better hearing. And that's what I'm here to help you. That's what I'm offering to help you with.
No, you're not, because you're just talking. Journalists aren't here to help me.
What the fuck else can I do that talk, son? For God's sake, don't be so silly. All I can do is talk to you. If you don't want to listen, then maybe you're walking around with your hands in your ears yourself. Why can't you listen as well as talk?
Well, I am listening.
Right. Michael Elner is a bloody hypnotist.
So?
He's a hypnotist.
Can you get away?
Yeah, he's a hypnotist who specialises in solving people's problems, such as nail biting. Now, when you attach to your philosophies somebody of such dubious credentials, you're going to undermine your whole case. When your blog is full of spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, you've got words in it that don't exist, Keith, then journalists aren't going to take you seriously. Can you see that?
See, this is what you seem to misunderstand. I'm not interested in what journalists think about me. What I'm trying to do is get people to look outside
Anybody is going to listen to you if you get your facts right.
Well,
if you
I'm
assemble them
quite happy to talk
properly.
about my facts. If you want to talk, let's pin one of these subjects down. Let's talk about 9/11, for example.
No, let's talk about the fact that
two wars.
Let's talk about the fact that George Bush, you say, is a cousin of the Queen, and that says what? Well, he's not for a start, but what if he is?
Well, this is where you need to do a bit of research.
No, you tell us what you've researched.
You won't listen to a word I'm saying, will you?
You tell us what you've researched. I want your facts.
Okay.
On that one.
If people do a little bit of research into the bloodlines that are controlling this planet, and have done for many years, and their agenda, which is a new world order, one world government, okay, which is going to ultimately result in every human being controlled with a microchip and a central computer.
Okay,
now, already they're bringing
come on,
this
son.
together
This
with
is
a one world bank. With a
one bit of
central
evidence.
bank.
Come on,
These
Keith. No, Keith. This is
have
drivel.
orchestrated the financial collapse that's happening at the moment.
Drivel.
It isn't finished yet.
Drivel.
And the ultimate conclusion of it is
Keith,
a central bank based
drivel.
in Europe. Okay.
Drivel.
Following that, they want a one world army.
Bollocks. Keith, you're talking absolute bollocks now.
Okay, well, I'm not asking you to believe me, but what I would like is your listeners to do a bit of research themselves.
Keith.
And if I'm talking bollocks,
no,
and all the other researchers are talking bollocks, that's
they are.
fine.
They're not researchers,
But we're not
Keith.
getting the
They're
truth
not
from the
researchers. And now that's what pisses me off, because you keep saying that people such as myself are letting humanity down.
No, I actually compliment
Stop
you.
interrupting me then if you don't like interruptions. Because what I'm doing is giving you a professional appraisal of how you could improve your case. And you need it, Keith, because the stuff that you've sent us about your book is just lamentable. There are words in it that don't exist in the human language. And when you do that, you're undermining your whole case.
But it's given me a platform to speak, hasn't it? And
Did you understand?
Did you use the Queen's English? I haven't got a problem with that. You speak how you want to speak, and I'll speak how I want to speak. What I want to do is disseminate information.
No, you're not disseminating information.
You're the story from the media.
Give us some information, then. Give us some information, son. Give us a bit of information.
9/11 was an inside job. It was part of a coordinated agenda to bring about a one world government for ultimate control of all life on this planet.
All right, now let me just stop you there. No, Keith, slow down. No, yeah, because I asked you a clear question, which is give us some information.
Okay.
And you've given us
Let me tell
a
you about
piece of
something else,
hot air. So,
let me tell you about something else that most people journalists don't talk about.
Yeah.
3 million animals are tortured to death in secret vivisection laboratory experiments every year in this country. Okay? Do you know how many people die as a consequence? I'll tell you as well if you don't know, and I'm sure you do because you're a journalist, of those experiments, of those flawed results. These products that are being tested on animals are being given to human beings, to babies, to old people, and they're killing them. How often is that reported in the media? Tens of thousands of human beings are dying prematurely, vulnerable human beings, every year in this country alone, because they're being given products that have been tested on animals and passed as safe.
Just stop there for a second.
How many times do you hear that in the media?
Just stop there.
How many times do
don't
any of the
repeat
news
yourself.
media report that
All right.
story?
Now, look, Keith, calm down.
I'm calm, my
no,
friend.
You're
I'm
not.
calm.
You're not. Calm down. Listen, and listen to me carefully, all right? Now, you're back on home ground now, right? And you know your subject here better than most. And you care. And the job is not done yet. So my advice to you would be to stay here, where there is a job to be done and it's clear, and you're on home ground and you're winning.
No, I will not be silenced on things that are important. This affects us all. I've got a son, and it matters to me that he is free when he is an adult, okay? As it is, he isn't going to be. Because you're telling me the New World Order doesn't exist. This is a myth.
No, wait, you see, again...
Can I ask you the question now? You've asked me.
Yes,
Can I ask you, as a journalist, what do you think, what do you understand about the New World Order? And I would ask people to have a look at the front page of my website, which, as you say, is my home territory, from dusktilldawn.org.uk, and just have a look at some of the links about the New World Order and what it means to all life on this planet, which I care passionately about.
Do you want the answer to the question that you
I'd love it.
Me?
I really would.
You're going to listen now, because you haven't been very good at listening so far, if you don't mind me saying so. Right. What was the question again?
This is part of the problem, isn't it? I did ask you about the New World Order. We could talk about that. If we can be, like, level-headed, and let's discuss the New World Order.
So ask me the question you asked me again.
Did you not hear what I said?
Yeah, I did.
Tell me what you understand. Think of what the New World Order, what the agenda of these people, these bloodlines that control governments. Do you think that's important?
Now, what's the question again? How many questions are you asking now, mate? Just ask me a question and I'll answer it. Doesn't need a supplementary.
Do you think it's important that people understand what the New World Order is and what it means to them and their children?
Okay, do I think that the New World Order is important?
The understanding... Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah, go on.
Do you think it's important that we expose to people, we reveal to people the agenda of the New World Order?
Right. Now, let me ask Fiona, who's quite neutral in all this. Fiona,
Tommy, please.
Yes, yeah, all right. Well,
if you don't know, just say you don't know.
Yeah.
But please do some research, because it's very, very important. It affects us all.
Yeah, no,
really
I do know.
As well.
I do know, Keith.
Is vitally important.
I do.
What happened on 9/11?
Shut up, Keith. I was about to ask Fiona a question. Why don't you shut up a bit and listen a bit more when you talk? Fiona, can you see what's wrong with Keith's question? Which I think the last time he rephrased it was, do you understand why it's important?
No, please.
Well, you rephrase the question then.
For want of a better phrase, you are picking at nits. You've been very... It's not that
for Christ's sake, you don't understand the importance of accuracy, son. This is your problem. This is why nobody takes you and David Icke seriously, because you don't understand what is evidence. You don't understand accuracy. You don't understand...
Can I ask you again then about the New World Order, please?
Well,
don't involve Fiona, please. We can talk to Fiona in a minute, but please answer that question. I've answered yours.
Okay.
I've been polite. I'm listening.
Well, do ask it again then. And
do you understand the New World Order and what the implications it has for life on this planet?
Do I understand the New World Order, and do I understand, what was it?
The implications it has for us all.
All right. This is the question I will answer. I do understand the theories that are put forward about the so-called New World Order. And I do believe I understand, as best I can, the fears, in spite of the lack of concrete evidence...
It's in front of your eyes.
...that some people have about what I'm afraid I have come to the conclusion is a crackpot theory.
Cool. Okay. Does it matter to you that we have been lied to about life outside this planet, for example?
Don't start telling me there are Martians. Don't start telling...
Okay, you don't believe anything.
No, I've looked into it. They are not bloody spaceships on Mars, mate. That is not a person on Mars. I've seen the footage. That isn't a person.
I'm not asking you to believe it. That is not...
Wait, yes you are. That is not a face on the surface of Mars, for God's sake.
I asked you. Okay,
that is not an underground system on the surface of Mars.
All I ask people to do...
So I've had a look at it. Anybody who's got half a brain will have a look at it and realise that it's bollocks. And when you put next to your excellent concerns about animal welfare, when you put them next to the idea that there's a cover-up of the fact that there is a Martian civilization and that there's a picture of a bloody UFO on the Martian surface, what happens is that people think, well, maybe he's talking bollocks about animals as well, because the theory these theories that you have, leave them alone, because it's nuttery. Leave other people to say that there's life on Mars and that George Bush is a cousin of the Queen. You'll be telling us that the Queen is a lizard next, like David Icke says.
Have you researched? I mean, again, not you. I mean, you're obviously very you've made up your mind. But the Anunnaki
is the Queen a lizard?
Huh?
Is the Queen a reptile?
I've got no idea.
But that's what David Icke says.
Please. You're getting very angry over these.
Because I care about animals, and you're the man who can do the job for us. But now you're acting like you've been to the pub.
Okay,
come on,
that's cool. Listen, yeah, that's great. But I do implore people to do a bit of research for themselves. You can listen to the hysteria and the hatred. And I don't know why you're so opposed to learning new information. You
now,
say
just stop it there. I'm not. That's correct. You can't accuse me of that. What? You've got no evidence. Look, your blog, right? There's no punctuation in it, man.
Okay, you've made the point. I can't.
There's no such word as voluminous.
Okay, I accept that. I didn't do very well at education at school. I didn't like what I was being taught.
No, so let somebody who knows. Let somebody who.
What I did when I left school,
let somebody who knows. Let somebody who knows how to.
I can't write. I've got a big book there that I get a lot of good positive feedback from. That seems to be pretty well written.
Take some advice.
My blog, that's fine. You didn't have to read it. You didn't have to talk to me about it.
You'll get more people doing this research that you want if you quite simply learn the difference between things that are actual pieces of evidence and information and fantasy. There is a difference between fantasy and evidence.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not saying that anybody needs to believe anything that I'm saying, but it's quite important that
what did you just say?
Research. George Bush, who you think's wonderful, and
when did I say that? Fiona, did I say that? Come on, for God's sake.
He isn't.
This is your trouble, you see. You just make stuff up. I didn't say George Bush was wonderful. I think he's as big as a divot as everybody else does. But your trouble is that you allow yourself just to make stuff up. So you made up that I think that George Bush is wonderful. You know that I didn't say that, don't you?
I didn't say that you said it. That was that was the impression I got from you. Because he isn't related to anybody else, and because he's made these decisions to take us into illegal
So
wars.
I say that George Bush isn't a cousin of the Queen, and you say that sounds as though I'm saying he's wonderful.
He is. He is. He's the 13th cousin of the current
Queen
of
England. No, he's not.
Well, that's fine. You don't have to believe it. I don't care whether you do or not.
And I have researched it. I happen to know. I know more about the origins of the Bush family in the United States than anybody.
Okay, that's cool. Well,
because I researched it to find out whether he was English.
Great, that's fantastic.
So I followed it all the way back. Would you like to know about, the early Bushes?
Not particularly. I'd like to talk about things that are a bit more important. And
well, why bring them up then? You brought it up.
Well, you brought it up.
No, you brought it up. It's in your bloody bog. I read it in your bog.
That's fine. That's what I've just said.
Stick to what you know. Stick to what you know and what you're good at.
You're very angry that I'm trying to disseminate information. You're telling me...
You're not disseminating information, you're disseminating...
Do you believe the fairy story about 9/11? Do you believe the fairy story that we've been sold in the media, that all journalists report about 9/11, about who did it, about 19 Arabs?
I will answer that question. I will answer that question if you'll listen to the answer. Just as I don't believe there is enough evidence to prove that there is a God or that there is not a God, and therefore I'm an agnostic, I don't believe that there is enough evidence to believe that 19 hijackers were responsible for 9/11, nor do I believe there's enough evidence to say that somebody else was. So, whilst...
Well, who else put bombs in World Trade Center 7? Who else brought that building down?
I nearly finished a sentence. I nearly finished a sentence there. What did you think of my answer?
Well, I don't, because you haven't answered my question.
Oh, yeah,
you're sitting on the fence, and that's not at all helpful, because somebody must have done it. Clearly it wasn't Bin Laden, so therefore it must have been people involved with the American administration, people who control events in America. Who else could have put bombs in World Trade Center 7
let me tell you about
and
that,
in those two towers?
I don't believe that it would have been possible for a team, an enormous team...
No, but that aside...
What do you mean, that aside? I haven't said anything yet.
No, okay, I know what you're going to say, though.
Well, maybe you do, but the listener doesn't.
But who else put bombs in that building? It wasn't Bin Laden, was it? Who the FBI aren't even hunting for the attacks. The FBI aren't even looking for it. Leave this stuff to loose change. No, please. Okay.
And leave the fact that the royal family are lizards to David
Be quiet
Icke.
about these things, because they're important.
But the royal family aren't lizards.
These things are important. Who, can I just ask you then, we'll just stick with this thing about World Trade Center 7, for example. Who put the bombs in World Trade Center 7 to bring it down in a controlled demolition, which was admitted by the leaseholder on that afternoon of 9/11? Who,
right. Okay,
in your view, could have possibly done that?
First of all, none of the things that you've said are true, because the owner of... Who is the owner of...
Larry Silverstein.
Right, and...
He was a leaseholder, not the owner. He was a leaseholder who took lease leasehold 2 months before the attack, a month before the attacks on 9/11.
Yes, and your point is that he said that the buildings were blocked down.
He admitted that the building was wired with explosives.
Okay. Can you give me, right now, here's where it gets really interesting. As somebody who is trained in this and who believes in verification, I'm just going to ask you to footnote that and tell me exactly where you have that evidence so that I can go and check that what you're saying is true. Exactly where you found out that Silverstein said.
Oh, well, he says it himself, and you'll find him all over the internet. You can find him in many of the books that read...
Go away now, then. No, because I want that reference. Because I think you're somebody who just goes, oh, and he admitted it, and they said that, and Bill Laden definitely didn't do it. Whereas I have to have the facts, so I want
it's
the
very
piece
easy.
of...
You said you've researched 9/11. I mean, all you have to do, you can Google Larry Silverstein and 9/11, and you will find him come up endlessly. He was on news reports on the day. He admitted endlessly. He's got no shame about admitting that he said that World Trade Center 7 was wired up with bombs, with explosives, on the day, while it was on fire, while these other towers were falling, while 3,000 people were dying. He said...
Keith, this just isn't true, darling. This just isn't true. Go and watch Loose Change again. That just isn't true, what you've just said.
Well,
Now, when you say things like that clearly aren't true to someone...
Change is a very good documentary that's put together about 9/11.
Professional as myself.
You can find the...
Then I start to wonder whether you're telling the truth...
Oh, Zeitgeist is a cracker as well, Zeitgeist.
Or you're making stuff up about animal research.
About religion and about who is controlling events on this planet.
Did you hear what I said?
About the banking system and about what they're doing to people. That these are important things, not about a reference point or a spelling mistake in a blog. These aren't important things. These are big issues we need to be talking about.
Right.
9/11 is central to this whole global conspiracy, and it is a conspiracy.
Let me make my final point then to you, Keith.
New World Order.
Which I want you to listen to again, because you're really one of the worst listeners I've ever come across. You really are. Let me make my final point to you. I believe that you are an enormous source for good on this planet when you stick to the thing that really drives you forward, which is animal welfare.
No, it isn't. See, you don't understand me at all. You don't understand me at all. It's not about animals or people. This is about respecting life. And I do, and I want to make people aware of what's happening.
Have you ever listened to anybody finish a sentence? Or are you mentally rehearsing what you're going to say next, which is why you miss half the stuff?
Please carry on.
Right, I will. I believe that if you stick to what you are known for and what you're most committed to, then there is a good chance that you will actually win a very important campaign, which you yourself recognise is slow-moving, but still the most important thing that you can do. That's my own judgment. But here's an even more important judgment. As somebody who is a member of a profession that you find sells you short, sells people like yourself short...
No, everybody, all of us.
All right,
all human beings.
All right, all
human
beings.
Short by journalists.
Yeah, don't be insulting, because I don't sell my family short, for example. I tell them, we know, and we do it right.
Well, you want to expose the New World Order then, because it's going to affect your family in the future.
Don't start trying to frighten my family or me. Don't start making it personal like that. Okay. All right. No. And don't think you speak for everybody else, because here's what everybody else thinks of you. They would like to believe you, and they would like to take you seriously, but as long as you're so cavalier with facts and information, you're not only making yourself look foolish where you need not, but, and this is the danger, you're actually undermining the good campaigning that you're doing on behalf of animals. And I'm telling you this for your own good, and for the good of all the animals on planet Earth. Win that one. Play at home. All right?
No.
Play 4 at the back.
No.
And 4 in midfield.
No, there are bigger issues. There are bigger issues. And I do implore people to do a bit of research into the New World Order and what happened on 9/11 and Codex and all these other things that are very, very important to us. And all life on this planet, animals and people, are going to suffer immeasurably if we don't start to address these issues. And
no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about we're talking about the point that I've made to you.
That's
about
fine.
what you do.
That's great. You tell me to go and sit in a box and talk about something that clearly you're not that desperately important about, because you're not addressing. And are you a vegan? I don't think you are. So you're not that concerned about animals. So to tell me how to go about raising the issue and educating people about animal welfare and about the way animals can be treated, it sings hollow.
Shall I tell you why I'm not a vegan? I'll I will tell you why I'm not a vegan, since you brought it up. You're very personal sometimes. I'll tell you why I'm not a vegan. Because every time, as a vegetarian, I get together with other vegetarians. Do you know what you lot all do? You all play who's the most vegetarian amongst us. It's pathetic.
Well, that's ridiculous.
It's absolutely pathetic. Yeah, it is.
It
is true. It's just true. You get all you bloody animal libbers together.
I'm not a vegetarian. I'm vegan, so I wouldn't.
Well, so yeah, there you are. You see, you just did it. But you just did it, you tosser. You just did it. You just went and bloody walked straight into it like it was a trap, which it wasn't.
What on earth are you going on about?
I know you don't understand, do you?
No, I don't. The point is, I'm a vegan because I don't like animal exploitation. I'm not going to compromise on any of those aspects of animal abuse.
Yeah, but if I was a vegan with you, I'd be coming on about the fact that I'm a fruitarian, and that would make you seem cruel, wouldn't it? To some plants.
That's nonsense.
Yes, it would. Why don't you become an aerovian then and just inhale? Please, you're being cruel to plants.
Sensible.
I see. You're sensible, but people who won't eat carrots, are they nutcases then?
What kind of
people who think that it's cruel to eat carrots, are they nutcases?
Oh, ludicrous! You're not.
How can you say that? There are people who won't eat vegetables. They're fruitarians.
What are you talking to me about people who won't eat vegetables?
Because I'm proving my case, you see, that you think that you're absolutely sane and that everybody else is a nutcase.
No, I did.
Why do you eat vegetables? That's cruel. People think that. Why do you do it?
Well, because I've got a bit more sense. I kind of realise sentient beings have got a bit more ability to feel and suffer. Right. If you're telling me that a cow feels the same pain as a carrot, then
you don't know, do you, Keithy boy? You don't know, do you? Fruitarians would tell you that you're a bastard for eating them carrots.
Great, that's fantastic. But what I'm trying to do is educate people, get people to do a bit more research that they're not going to get from the media, clearly from programmes like yours, as it is. I'm quite surprised, I have to say. But there's a lot going on out there that we need to learn about and educate our children about.
I've enjoyed talking to you. It's been quite good fun. You're a right bloody brick wall, and quite frankly, the only way any of us ever get to move forward is by spending a bit more time listening and a bit less time yakking. But we should do this again sometime. I urge you, Keith, to do a bit more research.
Oh, I'm going to. That's what I'm spending my life doing, research and education. And I implore everybody who's listening to your show to do the same.
I'm sure your 650-page book is a page-turner, but I'm always reminded of a piece of wisdom I was taught way back, which was don't write anything until you know what you're saying, and when you do, write as little as possible.
Well, journalists, that's all I can end that one on.
No, sorry.
Journalism.
Sorry, Petal, that was George Bernard Shaw.
Journalism. Check the New World Order out, people. Check the New World Order out, and Codex. See if it's insignificant. From Codex Armenteris. It's massive. It really is. It's going to have a big impact on all life on this planet and what these people are doing. The agenda of these people is quite frightening, but there's something we can do about it. We have got the ability to do something about this agenda if people just wake up and stop listening to drivel, which is what most people are doing at the moment, unfortunately.
You said it. But as we get to know Catherine better, I'm sure we can. The explicit ones. Just a stage too far at the moment. Oh, and a rude one, Catherine. Shall I read that? Is that all right?
Go on, shock me.
I don't think we will. This is from a bloke called John. He says, Boyd, you sound like a simpering perv. Was wondering if you would value my views on pre-Raphaelite art more if I went outside my house and put a sign around my neck saying I would have sex with anyone for money. A lot of what this person says is drivelling nonsense, and it would appear that the only reason you give so much airtime to her is because of the novelty that she is also a prostitute.
Yeah, I'd say there's probably some kind of validity in that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, sort of the reason that it is interesting to people that I talk about to some extent, obviously, is that it is a contrasting juxtaposition with my job.
It is a delicious juxtaposition, and yet at the same time, sex and art are two of the most sublime things you can get up to on the planet. So there's a really rather nice sandwich, isn't there?
Yes, it is, and also I don't think my views are particularly relevant I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm simply talking from an entirely personal perspective. And I think that's what all art critics do. It's just some people... I try and talk about exactly what my experience is in a way that tries to really describe the experience I have and not coat it in an intellectual, this is the history of art. It's about the physical experience I have, the response I have to things. And yeah, I think that does sound really pretentious. I think if anybody does want to know what I look like, you know, go look up the word pretentious in the dictionary. My picture's probably next to it. Yeah, and that's fine. And it's great, you know, I'm sure there are lots of people who are sitting there thinking, what the hell is this woman talking about? What relevance does this have? And that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good, clear, clean answer and an honest one. And I think you're a very honest person, which is more than you can say for some people who write shitty emails. But anyway,
I think he's being honest about what he felt, and that's fair enough.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's right. I mean, I'm going to go away and drive home tonight. One of the questions I'll ask myself is, am I particularly nice to you? Because, do I not challenge your views on art because I'm sort of slightly in awe of the fact that you are an art critic who we found through interviewing you about your work in the sex industry. So do I cherish you a little bit because I think you're a bit of a discovery? And do you know what? Since we're all being honest, that's true.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That is true.
And I think, I don't know if I've said it, but one of the things I've realised recently is that in a way it's very easy for me to impress people because their expectations are very low. So when they meet somebody who has sex and money and can, you know, walk and chew gum at the same time, you've already exceeded their expectations. And yes, I am articulate and, you know, etc., etc. But it's very easy to to impress people when they're not expecting very much.
There's not a lot going on in the world today. There's a bit of a sort of an abating of the news agenda at the moment. I don't know whether it's set to decline now. The credit crunch isn't being talked about quite so much, is it, at the moment?
No.
And there's been a terrible thing happened in Mumbai in India, but again, that's kind of no longer up to the minute news because it's over. Yeah. And the discussion, we still don't know who did that. Nobody claims responsibility for certain terrorist attacks. When I was a boy, I used to take phone calls from the IRA at one place where I worked, telling, you know, claiming responsibility. And somebody at the IRA knew my name because they phoned up and they said, we'd like to issue a statement on behalf of the IRA in connection with the current, whatever it was. So I said, okay. I said, matter of interest, I said, could I tape your conversation so that I don't have to write it down longhand? Because they're very long, the IRA statements. Wordy. Yeah. Well, they're Irish.
Yeah.
And the fellow went, he said, I don't see why not. I said, well, I just have to check that with my bosses because I wasn't sure whether it was lawful to take an IRA statement by tape, because in my mind was broadcasting it, you see. Yeah. So you'd actually hear the bloke at the other end say, this morning the IRA provisional wing issued the following statement. And I thought, that'd be good radio. So I said to him, can you call back in 5 minutes? So he said, yes, who shall I ask for? So I gave him my name. And I went and checked with the boss, and the boss went, yeah, you can tape it. He said, whether we play it or not will depend on what's in it. So I said, okay. So I'm sitting there, and the phone rings. My phone. And this voice at the other end went, could I speak to Mr. Boyd, please? I said, Mr. Boyd speaking, this is the IRA. Oh, shit, now I'm screwed. And I was very tempted to ask him at the end of the statement, why do you do it? Why do you blow people up? Is there not another way? But I didn't. Catherine Capp is our mistress of the arts. That's a good phrase. Do you like that?
Yeah.
See, these things just come, don't they?
They certainly do.
You could sit down and have a committee meeting to try and think up some kind of strapline for Catherine. She's a BDSM, SM dominatrix. She broadcasts from her dungeon, but she's also an art connoisseur and an art critic. So we talk a little bit about whatever it is, Bacon, Hamlet. Bacon and Hamlet. I'm on a roll here. Can somebody be writing this down? Bacon and Hamlet. Where was I?
That's it, you can go home now.
Okay. But the strapline is that she's our mistress of the arts. And if you want to send her something in to review, it might be a short story you've written. I don't think a book, because, blimey, she's got a life, and a very interesting one, actually, which we're going to find out more about as our relationship with Catherine continues. However, Robert is on line 3. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Mr. Boyd. How are you doing, sir?
Jim Dandy. What about you?
I'm tipping the cap to you, sir. I'm not too bad, not too bad.
Cock-a-lory.
We were sat about tonight, and I've been reading a bit of James Whale's book, and we were just on about, like, who would write a book. Now, you've not wrote a book yet, have you?
No.
Why? Is there a reason for that, or have you ever thought about it? You know, just like your history in TV and radio, because you find to have some cracking stories.
Oh, I do, and I have, and I've done a lot, and that's because I found out when I was 7 that you die.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, I better get cracking here. And I'm not going to write until I'm nearly dead.
You're going to save it?
Well, because there might be more, and because I read that you should never write anything until you know exactly what you're going to say, and then you should say it as quickly as possible and shut up, and I agree with that. And like I say, there are still some... And I also haven't got time. I don't know how James manages to... And John Gaunt's written his book, and a guy called Ian Collins, and Chris Moyles has written his book, and
That's what I mean. They've done nothing really, have they? But my only worry is like, I know what you're saying about wait till you're older, but God forbid we could all get hit by a bus tomorrow. And, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that you think at some point in your life, you've got to think, right, I'm going to do it now, because we don't know how much time we've got, do we?
Well, you're right. And I've been thinking of an opening sentence. And it goes something like this. Due to the extraordinarily short longevity of white men in this particular part of Africa during the mid-1800s, at the tender age of 27, Helmut was considered mature enough to captain one of the 2 ferries which made the hazardous journey from the ocean harbour along the Zambezi and out of sight of civilization. What do you think?
It's a bit more highbrow than I expected, Tommy. Maybe.
Well, it's also bollocks. It's got nothing to do with anything, but why should... I mean, have you not started a novel?
No.
Of course you have, in your mind. What's your novel?
We've
all got a novel in us. Depending on whether we fell against it in the bath. That's what we told them in Casualty.
I think when you're about 16, 17, everyone writes really bad poetry, don't they?
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, everyone does, though, isn't it? The world doesn't
have you got any of yours? Have you got any of yours to hand? Do you remember any of your bad poetry?
I haven't, but we could probably do a bad poetry night, Tommy, and I could probably dig some up.
I only ever wrote one, and it was a sonnet to a girl called Alison Price, who I was deeply infatuated with. She worked on the glassware counter of Debenhams in Staines, and her father was a reserve goalkeeper for Brentford, and that clinched it for me.
Oh, bless you.
And I loved her from a distance for a long time, well, about 6 weeks. And I wrote the following crap. Right, here we go.
Go on.
Okay, right. I'm 17, okay? She was 14. 15. Right. Asleep, I dreamed a canvas of mankind. Each touch of paint, a man, a girl, a child. I would have spent my life and more to find a clue upon the canvas thus defiled. Anyway, it went on for another verse and a half, being a sonnet, and ended up with the conclusion that what I was looking for in this painting was a picture of Alison Price. And you know what?
Yeah?
It's a bit sad that I can remember it. Isn't it? It's a bit...
Did you get anywhere, though?
With her?
Yeah.
No, because what happened was she was that rare thing, her number was incorrectly printed in the local phone book.
Oh.
So I had to ring her one night, because I asked her out, and she said yes, she'd meet me outside the Odeon in Staines. We were going to go and see a film called Little Big Man.
Yeah.
It was a harrowing film, because it had Dustin Hoffman in it, and I always find him very harrowing. There's something... Anyway. But then I got waylaid with something else, and I couldn't meet her, but she was on her way, or getting ready to go. Right? It's about 5:15, it's Saturday evening, and I'm meeting her outside the Odeon at 7. And I can't go. So I picked up the phone book to ring. She lived in Glebe Road in Staines. Right? And I rang it, and it just went beep. So I thought, oh, I've rung wrong.
No.
So I rang again. Beep. And this was back when there were operators. Does anybody else remember operators? So
Yeah.
I phoned the operator, and I said, could you check a number, please? And she went, yes. And she said, that number is incorrect. It's incorrectly printed in the book.
Oh.
I said, oh, God, thank goodness I've got you. What is the correct number? She said, I can't give you that. I said, oh, no, please. Our future whole happiness depends on it. And she wouldn't.
Oh.
And the thing was that Alison drove past me at the bus stop on her way back from the being dumped outside the Odeon, right? And saw me at the bus stop with the reason why I couldn't see her that night was because my existing girlfriend at the time, who I was in the process of dumping, said to me that she would make my life hell if I didn't go out with her one more time.
Oh.
And I worked with her because she worked on the cosmetics counter of the same Debenhams that Alison worked on the glassware counter of.
Oh dear.
Right? Isn't life like that? But supposing that, if that number had been properly printed, I might have married Alison Price.
Yeah.
That's life,
It is.
isn't it?
No worries.
Did you never explain to her what happened though?
Yeah, I wrote to her letters. I had to go and work in America later.
Right.
And so about 6 weeks I'm on the plane. And as soon as I got on the plane, I was looking for notepaper. And when I got to New York, the first thing I did was send her a letter explaining everything and begging her to go out with me again. And,
Her loss.
Yeah.
I don't know, I've tried to track her down. You do.
Yeah.
You do try to track down your first adolescent true love.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how old you are, Robert, but do you have somebody in mind who you just like to know is all right? And
Yeah. I found her about 2 years ago, actually. My first ever girlfriend, and she's like 3 times the size of me now, Tommy.
Ah, that's quite good, isn't it? To find out that you know you're not quite missing everything.
Yeah. Especially, as I say, when they come, knock on you, it's probably the same with you. You'll be, like, famous now, you know what I mean? When they come crawling back, you kind of get that little bit of pleasure back, saying, yep, you missed out there.
Yes.
Tommy Boyd on Play 2 UK, the original cunning linguist.